Today I met a girl in college whose level of ignorance astonished me. Reddit. Do you have any stories about people's ignorance that made you want to smack them in the face with an encyclopedia? In high school I was sitting next to a girl in my current events class. We were given a map of the United States and asked to write in the names of as many states as we could identify. After about 7 or 8 minutes the girl next to me leans over and asks me where Iowa is. We lived in Iowa. I think I could get Texas, Alaska, California and Hawaii. I live in Australia. This was in the days before Google could have helped me out. My neighbor's 6-year-old kid was kicking around like a little ninja, and this convo occurred. Drew, this is what my dojo teacher taught us in class. Me, wow, Drew, is that karate? Drew, no, it's dojo. Me, sweetie, dojo is the place where you learn karate. Dojo isn't something you learn. Drew, pitches hissy fit. I'm learning dojo. Says so right here on my uniform. And it does in fact say capital city dojo. Can't argue with him there. Moom. Neighbor lady says I can't learn dojo. Me. He misunderstood. He's learning karate. He thought dojo was the type of karate, I guess. Drew's mom. Yes. He's learning dojo karate. It's a type of karate. Me. It's, what? Drew's mom. Dojo. It's a type of karate. Me. I don't think that's right. Drew's mom. Well, since I'm the one whose son is learning dojo karate, I think I should know better than you do. That last line is infuriating. Oh god. At school we had a girl say, when filming Star Wars, how did they get the lightsabers into space? Same way they got the cameras up there. I had a Canadian friend get into an American bar. Minimum age for drinking is 21. At the age of 19 because he convinced the bouncer that he was 19 in metric years, which was roughly equivalent to 22 or 23 in imperial years. He bought it after my buddy brought up the different units for distance and temperature. I guess he just assumed it would work the same way for time. That is fantastic, lol. A girl I went to high school with once told me you must be wrong. If humans have never been outside of our galaxy, how do we get all those pictures of all that space stuff? She also lacked basic scientific knowledge. For example, what our solar system is made of, or that our sun is a star. In elementary school one year, the teacher made us do mock news shows for current events. One time a girl got the science topic, so she picked a newspaper article about construction in Neptune. Neptune is a township in New Jersey. I was having an intellectual discussion with my history teacher about the Gulf War. We got onto the subject of terrorism, and the girl next to me, who wasn't the brightest, yelled, "Oh, you mean Osama the Llama?" Osama the Llama sounds like a Republican propaganda cartoon character. In my senior year of high school, my science and sustainability teacher said something offhandedly about dinosaurs. A girl in my class snickered. He turned around and asked her what was funny and she froze up. Turns out, she thought dinosaurs were fake, like dragons and unicorns, and that the teacher was making a joke. Also, she was a senior in high school. In middle school, I went to a summer church camp for Southern Baptist. My hair was dyed black. I was walking around with friends and this girl comes up. Girl, do you worship the devil? Me, no. Girl, then why is your hair black? Me, staring in dumb shocked confusion until my friends led me away without saying anything. How do you respond to that? Why yes, as a matter of fact, the devil's semen, besides being sinfully delicious, has magical properties that change hair color. This oddly reminds me of that story about the girl who thought black men produce black colored semen. I was taking an intro to sociology class my freshman year in college. We usually had open discussions on various topics. On this day the topic was race. The class was filled with very open-minded students with one exemption, a middle-aged mother of two. I refer to her so specifically because she was the kind of person that felt it was of the utmost importance to bring up her two children in every discussion, question, argument, paper, etc. If you were a college student, you know this freaking person. I digress. We began discussing minorities in inner cities. I brought up some point on the ghetto, its inhabitants, and its effect on them. The aforementioned lady then blurts out something completely unexpected. I think black people are just born irrational. I mean, No wonder they've been complaining about always getting the short end of the stick. They are born immoral and just so stupid about everything. I can't remember the rest of her statement, but she went on a tirade for a while until the professor, who had on the most bewildered and shocked expression you will ever see, stopped the idiot in her tracks. Note, we are in New York City. This class was very diverse. Everyone in the class cannot believe she said that. From across the room a friend of mine who is Haitian yells, "What?" and attempts to set this idiot straight. Although clearly disturbed by her statement, he is eloquent and respectful when talking to her. The idiot interrupts him mid-sentence and starts acting like she's being attacked for her opinion. She then says, "I kid you the frick not. You are proving my point." Goes on small rant about her children. "You are acting like a savage." The professor dismisses us and pulls her aside as we march out of class in disgust. We don't know what was said between them, but come next class nothing changed. She does not apologize for her statements and goes on another rant about how we all should understand where she's coming from. She was removed from the class soon after. That made me cringe. It sucks how people still use the foreigners, Hispanics, blacks are naturally savage and immoral argument and fail to account for other factors. I was 18 and just started dating this girl I had met at a party. We were up in my room, hanging out. She picks up my right-handed guitar, but is holding it upside down. I say to her, "You're holding it wrong." She says, "It feels more comfortable this way." I say, "Well, left-handed guitars are made for the way you're holding it. Are you left-handed or right-handed?" We had just started going out that week, so it was not something that I knew. She kind of looked at me with a puzzled stare. I thought maybe she didn't hear me, so I asked again. Still more puzzlement. So then I thought, well, maybe they don't call it left-handed right-handed in England. Yeah, I know it was a dumb thing for me to think. But she was from England and just moved to Canada a few months earlier. I thought maybe they might have a special colloquialism for that there. So I rephrased it. When you're writing something, do you hold the pen in your left or right hand? She looked at me, then looked down at her hands and stared at them for a few seconds. Then looked back up at me with a blank stare. She never did answer. And come to think of it, I never did find out. TLDR. XGF didn't know whether she was left or right-handed. I used to work on a switchboard for a certain broadcasting corporation in Britain. On one call I had to speak to a woman who wanted to complain about the fact that a TV program she was watching was using strobe lights. She couldn't watch it because she was epileptic and she wanted it taken off the air. Another call I took was a complaint about the Olympics. This person wanted to know why Afghanistan were allowed to compete in the Olympics because we are fighting them. Mum used to work in the BBC mail department. Not sure if you are old enough to remember play school, but every day they had a clock set to a different time and asked the kids at home what time it showed. Every day they got a letter from a guy who was complaining the clock was wrong. When my brother was in America, he convinced a girl that there were no Wednesdays in Ireland, and that there is an extra month at the end of the year called Wedtember to make up for it. Your brother is an evil genius. I was 14 years old, speaking with a woman in her late 30s, a co-worker of a family member visiting on a holiday. She was extremely religious and followed some sect that took much of the Bible literally. Anyway, I later found out she had a warped sense of reality, but the first time I spoke with her, I just thought she just plain dumb after asking her about her third child and pregnancy. Me, how was the delivery, lady? Oh, it went fine. Everything went as planned. The only problem is this time we had to leave the hospital early. They have a new policy where they ask you to actually donate stem cells from your baby. Me, oh that's great. Why did you have to leave early though? Lady, I don't want to be in a hospital where all they need to take my baby's stem cells is to just ask a simple question of the parents. Me, I'm a bit confused. Don't they just take them from the umbilical cord? Lady, laughing. Oh honey no, they have to kill the baby. I think it has to do with all those abortion laws trying to be passed. This is why Christians are fighting so hard to save the lives of all our children. One day if they have their way we might not even be able to say no to killing our babies for stem cells. Me. TLDR lady thought donating umbilical stem cells was the same as aborting the fetus. Bloody heck, mate. If only stupidity would hurt. One of my worst experiences with people's ignorance was a few months ago, when I was donating blood in a donation drive organized by a church near me. I was waiting for a nurse to come disconnect me from the pump thingy, when I heard a middle-aged woman on the bed next to me ask her nurse if she was a leather sick. I presume she asked because the nurse had a rainbow LGBT badge pinned to her head. She said she was and asked if there was a problem, at which point the woman on the table started shouting at the top of her lungs that she did not want to be handled by a dirty lesbo, that she should not be parading herself in the house of God and that she will sue her for infecting her. I have nothing but admiration for the calm stoicism and professionalism of the nurse in question and her colleagues who promptly took the agitated woman away and still made sure she had proper aftercare. I had a little bit of faith in humanity restored when all other donors present, a lot of whom were members of that church, became vocal about supporting the nurse and about how wrong the woman had been in being so prejudiced and downright idiotic. If I was that nurse, I would have looked at my hands for a second, then rubbed them all over that bee, like I was smearing a cream pie on her face. When told a piece of amber was millions of years old, my friend said that wasn't possible because it's only 2012. She's like 45 with kids and a college education. Talking to my younger brother about a duck almost pooping on me as it flew overhead, and he responded, "Wait, ducks can fly?" Apparently he had always thought that ducks were like penguins and couldn't fly, they only swam around. He was about 16 at the time. During my sophomore year of college, a girl in my ethnic diversity and human cultures class asked the professor, "Did the KKK basically, like, worship albino people because they're so white?" After a few seconds of awkward silence, the professor followed up with, "It's a different thing entirely." He then changed the subject and no one else said a word for the rest of class. Seems only right that they should. Yesterday someone I know very well shocked me by revealing the truth about the New World Order. In the space of about 5 minutes I learned that during the recession, the government continued to spend millions on developing flat screen TVs and keeping them cheap. BC, there's a secret light installed that makes you addicted within 2 minutes, so you watch TV instead of focusing on politics and what's going on around you. This is also why celebrities are paid so much. Also, those trails behind planes, those are chemtrails. The government is spraying chemicals everywhere to ruin our crops, which is why so many people have cancer now. Also, household water contains 5 times the legal limit of fluoride. This causes sterility in men, which is also why there's so much cholesterol in food. This is part of the UN and NWO's plan to bring the world population down to 1 billion. It's all covered in some secret plan bill that Clinton, maybe another president, signed into law. I really didn't know what to say. I just kept my mouth shut and changed the topic as soon as possible since I didn't feel like starting an argument. I had no idea people actually believe these things. The world they're living in certainly sounds frightening. But we don't have any racial issues in Australia. Followed quickly by a flick of her glorious blonde locks. I had never seen anyone fit their stereotype so well. As a blonde-haired Australian girl, I can confirm that we do have many racial issues. A girl I met in America wanted to dress up as a black person for Halloween to express her black side, blackface and all. My 6-foot white friend once went as Gary Coleman for Halloween. It was actually quite successful. This past year, my fiance had finally been officially diagnosed with attention deficit disorder by a psychiatrist. He was written a prescription for Adderall with instructions to begin taking it, then get blood work and an EKG done to make sure his body could handle it. I went with him to get this done at a medical mall that's affiliated with our major hospital. Right as the nurse is about to stick a needle into his arm, she looks back at the prescription and asks us, "What is this D word?" Right, her she didn't know what the word deficit meant, as in the title of the psychiatrist's office, the Center for Attention Deficit Disorders. She was a young nurse, too, probably only a couple of years out of nursing school. Unbelievable. The woman drawing blood, if that was her only job, was most likely a phlebotomist, a technician trained to draw blood overseen by a nurse or doctor. Most technical schools and many diploma mills offer phlebotomy diplomas. Not as ridiculous as some of the others on here, but I work in a news station and took a call once after that tsunami hit Japan. Obviously, we were doing a lot of coverage on it, So the woman on the other line says you need to stop using the Japanese word, and instead of calling it a tsunami, use the English term tidal wave. I informed her they are not the same thing, as tidal waves are caused by tides, hence the name, and tsunamis are the result of water being displaced as the result of an earthquake, landslide, volcano, etc. She laughed at me and called me an idiot, and said that all other words we use are translated into English from their original language, so why should this be any different? An Asian friend of mine, who happens to be a nurse educator, is about to be married to a blonde, blue-eyed Caucasian man. She's been bragging to everyone that her 2 future babies will all be blonde and blue-eyed. It's highly unlikely as she comes from a long line of pure Filipinos and no one in her extended family has any other eye color than brown. I told her that the blue eye color is a recessive trait and her family has to carry the gene for it to even come up in her offspring, and even then, the chances are slim. She stopped talking about it after that. A lot of people from Asian countries don't know very much about recessive traits. My whole family has blue eyes and my sister was teaching English to kindergartners in South Korea. One of the students saw her eyes and asked if eating American food would give him blue eyes too. He was so disappointed. In biology class, this guy was astonished to discover that there is oxygen in water, and that fish could breathe this oxygen. But, Professor, if there's oxygen in water and the fish can breathe it, why can't we breathe underwater too? The professor asked him if he had gills, and after some serious thought, this dumbass answers, I don't think so. The prof looked dumbfounded, said there you go, and turned away to continue teaching class. It sounds like the guy actually wanted to learn. Sure, he was ignorant as heck, but that's actually a pretty legitimate follow-up question if you didn't know there was oxygen in water. I was browsing a giftware shop with my mother before Christmas last year searching for knickknacks to give to people we might have forgotten. You know, one of those stupid crap useless stores middle class mothers like to buy decorations from. And I overheard the lady behind the counter talking with a couple that were there. The lady was asking where they were from, because she hadn't met them before and maybe they'd just moved into the area. She then found out this couple were not from Australia and were visiting family here. Oh, where are you from? We're visiting from Iran. Oh, you're from Europe, how lovely. No, Iran, in the Middle East. But that is near Italy, right? I guess if you know nothing about relative locations of countries outside of Australia then sure, it's close to Italy. This was a 50-something spectacle-wearing well-spoken woman in the middle of leafy green liberal-minded suburbia. Yes, some people are ignorant but it's hilarious when people you expect to have a grip on basic geography completely frick it up. Well, when I was 14 and my younger cousin was 13, we were sitting in our grandfather's home who had recently passed away. I live in a different country so this is the first time I'd gone back there in quite a few years. We found an album full of photos, my grandfather some recent ones and some that were over 50 years old at the time. So we decided to take a look at them all, and as we reach the older ones I tell her to be careful with the older ones as they are very fragile and old, so we should keep them in a good state. To this she replies, oh no, the older ones are the more hardy ones, and she begins to crumple it and pull it. She ended up tearing up a 50-year-old photo of my grandfather who had passed away 3 months prior. TLDR. Grandpa died. 13-year-old cousin ripped a 50-year-old photo to prove a point. In high school a cute girl asked me what my ethnicity was. I told her I was Japanese. Her response was, oh, that's weird. I thought you were Asian. She was no longer cute. In one of my ethics classes a girl clad head to toe in J.Crew clothes, complete with a Coach purse. You get the idea, reported to the class that we shouldn't give money resources to homeless people. Our campus shared a border with an extremely impoverished area, because we're poor college kids and we can't afford that. It was true, but she shouldn't have been the person to say it. I lived in Alaska for 3 years and when I meet my wife I explained that drove from Alaska back home in the lower 48. She looked at me very confused and seriously asked, how did you drive across the ocean? Perplexed, I asked, why do you think I drove across the ocean? She responded by saying the every map she had seen had Alaska set off to the side, in the ocean. To my wife's credit, she is a very smart person, but geography and reading maps are not her best skills. This may be more bigotedness than stupidity, but they're fairly similar. My sister played football in HS. We lived in a small town. Things were pretty rough for her in general, but she loved it, and eventually earned a lot of people's respect by working hard. Anywho, freshman year, I went with her to buy new cleats. There was only one sporting goods store in town, and so we went there. The employee could not comprehend that we were buying the shoes for her. He kept asking if they were a birthday present for a brother. He tried to measure my feet. We actually ended up leaving because he told us they needed a foot to measure to get the right sizing. The other store was much more helpful, if still slightly perplexed. There was only one sporting goods store in town. The other store was much more helpful. Someone at work today turned to me and said, yeah, but Buddha wasn't a real person. I didn't know what to say, because conventionally she is wrong, but on an ultimate level she is 100% correct. Maybe she had already reached enlightenment and was a Buddha. You should have killed her. The girlfriend of a buddy of mine said, evolution? Really? Common. It's easier to believe woman came from the rib of Adam than it is to believe we evolved from apes. We didn't evolve from apes, though. We evolved from the same common ancestor as apes. Had a professor tell the class my second year of college that she was Jewish and if you were a Christian taking the class you would most likely fail. The class was English composition. That will get her butt fired so hard. My biology teacher, at a Catholic school, told us that there is no evidence for evolution. All the evidence points towards the Earth being 4,000 years old. My older sister, who recently moved from Washington to Texas, was at work when her new co-workers asked her if you could use a boat to get from Washington to Alaska in an hour. She said no, of course, knowing that you can't. But after she answered they kept asking, are you sure? Trying to convince her that you could use a boat to get from Washington to Alaska in under an hour. I was walking through campus with two friends, one of whom is from Hong Kong. The following conversation took place. English friend, so do you speak Japanese at home with your family? Hong Konger, why would I speak Japanese to my family? I'm from Hong Kong. English friend, isn't Hong Kong a part of Japan? Me and Hong Konger, double facepum. I was at a school trip to a theatre, West End, London. I was sitting in between my friend and a very hot girl in the year below. My friend is short-sighted and forgot to bring his glasses. So he said to me, I forgot my glasses, so can you tell me what's going on every now and again? I said sure I would. The hot girl said to him, oh you can't see? So, what color is that, pointing to the backdrop on stage? My friend replied, I can see colors. He's the colorblind one, not me. Pointing at me, I'm colorblind. She seemed to take a few moments to grasp what he said and then said, oh you're colorblind? You want to use my glasses? She was 100% serious. Me and friend just laughed and tried to explain that glasses do not work for all eye problems. It turns out she was not actually stupid at all and pretty smart. Just had a bit of a dim moment, I guess. You honestly aren't. My roommate in first year. Roommate, so what's up with Jewish people? Where are they from? Jewland. Completely sincere question she is asking. My friend, and other roommate of mine, tells my ignorant roommate she is Punjabi. Ignorant roommate replies, haha you're Punani? A 21-year-old girl once asked me what lake is this when we were at the beach in downtown Chicago. She lived within 10 minutes of the city her entire life. She also said two of my friends, one in school to be an engineer, the other a doctor, are retarded and can never be as smart as her because she was born in America and they are immigrants. She was serious. This idiotic comment came from someone who could not read an analog clock. Ooh, I have another one, and it's good. In high school, there was this guy in our class who was very conservative and a bit sheltered. We were at a pretty academically rigorous private school, so he obviously wasn't stupid, but he would just sort of say things out loud and ask really dumb questions or freak out about ridiculous things. We'll call him G. In English class, sophomore year, we watched the film version of Macbeth that had Ian McKellen and Judi Dench in it. At one point, they share a long kiss, and someone in the class said, in a very snarky manner, I bet he didn't like that too much, referring to Ian McKellen being gay. G turns around and is like, what are you talking about? The initial guy laughs and says, G, Ian McKellen is gay. G flips out and starts hysterically talking about how Ian McKellen can't be gay because Gandalf's not gay, Magneto's not gay. People tried to reassure him that the characters weren't gay, but the actor who played them is, but he just kept repeating it, as if his world had just crumbled. It was awesome. That same year, in our world history class, we were learning about the Boxer Rebellion, and about how the British controlled the weapons supply, so most of the Chinese rebels were fighting with their fists against Brits armed with rifles, etc. And so it was a very one-sided battle. G puts his hand up, and the teacher calls on him. G asks, in all seriousness, wait, why didn't they just use their samurai swords? The room went dead silent. Was driving my friend home from a party and we were listening to a random station, LBC for anyone in London. This was just after the shooting of that woman due to some crap with Taliban commanders. The host made some comments about the Taliban and it led to a comment on homosexuals should have equal rights as straights. The guy in my car is Muslim and then just openly declared his hatred for gays and said they should all be killed. He is an alright guy, but I was pretty pee with the ignorance. The sad thing is I know a few other Muslims in my friendship circles who would agree with him. And no, I am not saying all brown people want to blow up gays. I'm Muslim and I don't want to blow up gays. Just offering some perspective. Also, you need better Muslim friends. Oh my word. So I'm in geography class and the teacher hands out our assignment, which is to talk about the population and its factors of a country. This one girl in class chose the UK and honestly thought that Scotland was not part of the UK. Mind you, her idea of the UK only includes England and the Republic of Ireland. She is a massive One Direction fan. It took the whole class, including the teacher, to prove her wrong. TLDR. Girl in geography class thought Scotland was not part of the UK. Even funnier that the Republic of Ireland isn't even part of the UK. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.